This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by ProXPN, the virtual private network service, and their outstanding commitment to privacy and security online. Find out more and sign up with the coupon code VOICES at proxpn.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the Talk of the Mac community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we're finally back from CES, getting things back to normal a little bit, and I'm happy to have the first normal interview. That doesn't sound really good. The first normal interview with Mr. Nick Mattingly of Switcher Studio. Nick, it's good to see you again.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah, everything under control in your part of the country?
Doing well, holding down the fort. I was actually in San Francisco last week for the Periscope Summit, which was really interesting. Switcher doesn't work with Periscope yet. It's still a closed system. Facebook Live's the same thing, but we got a chance to talk to their development team. We got some really good feedback. And they asked us to record some sessions using Switcher, so that was a good pat on the back.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, it seems like this whole live streaming thing is really becoming the next big thing that everybody's trying to go for. And we're watching different factions try to carve out their little niches. And you're right, I'm thinking Periscope, YouTube. And really the thing we're here to talk about today is what Switcher Studio will now do. So let's talk about the latest upgrade.
Yeah, so we had an update a couple months ago that introduced the new director mode. So with director mode, you can disable the built-in camera on your main mixing device, and it allows you to broadcast at a lower quality and resolution and have an awesome video recording and have the raw footage from every angle. So if you're doing a 4-camera setup, your iPhones and iPads, you still have all of those sources available. With the director mode, you could lock in fixed frame rates. You could record 1080p video. We had a beta application for your Mac where you could push it into Final Cut and everything's synced up. All of your cuts and transitions are already in place when you go into post-production. With this new release, we've expanded on the director mode capabilities. Some of the features for increasing the quality, assigning fixed frame rates are easier to access through the interface. You can also bump up the bitrate to 50 megabytes. So we were floating around 6 or 7 before. We've had some customers that are producing content using Switcher Studio and putting it on cable television. So we've allowed them to increase the quality a lot more than we were before. And the recording capabilities just keep getting better and better. With that, we've also exposed the VU meter. So if you're monitoring your audio levels, you don't have to dig into one of the tabs to see if you're peaking or if your sound's too low. It's always right above the live pane. You can see it throughout your entire production. And we've also added the ability to monitor the volume levels from your remote camera. So if you know going into post-production you might want to use a soundbite from a camera across the room, you can see what that audio level looks like from the main mixing device. But the really cool thing, the one that we're most excited about, is the addition of YouTube integration. So Switcher allows you to do live video streaming. It supports RTMPs. It works with a lot of platforms like Ustream or Twitch or Bomboozer. It's worked with YouTube in the past, but YouTube's still really difficult. You have to bounce back and forth between your computer and preview streams and test it, regardless of what encoder you're using, whether it's a TriCaster or a Wirecast. So with this new release, we've made it where from within Switcher Studio, you can log into your Google or YouTube account, and using the new YouTube Now, you are one tap away from being able to do a live broadcast on YouTube. If you want to dig in deeper, you can actually select from events that you've scheduled on your YouTube account. You can unlink your account and pair it with a group or an organization if you're broadcasting on their channel. You can schedule events directly within Switcher Studio and select whether it's public or private or unlisted. And anything you can do on the YouTube website, you can now do within Switcher Studio. You can even generate the share link or URL from within the app and put it on Facebook or Twitter. So you're looking at a lot of the platforms that are out there. YouTube has been the king of on-demand video from the very beginning. And now that they've made live video available, we're here to make it a lot easier.
Lots of interesting things here. We watched Google get into the live Hangout business, and it just seemed like they never kind of locked it down. And I guess I don't know if live streaming is really that hard or what, but the controls were just never really accessible. And so now with Switcher Studio being sort of almost a front end for YouTube, I can see this, changing the game a little bit. And I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I can really see how this could make things a lot more approachable for someone that wants to do it from a simple standpoint, or that wants to ramp up and do something pretty sophisticated.
Yeah, there are a few apps that have popped up that allow you to broadcast from your iPhone to YouTube. But really, what we've been able to accomplish with this new update in Switcher Studio, I feel like we got it right. Once you have set it up that first time, you hit the big red button. You're ready to go live. It's going to validate your stream, test it, check it. You don't have to know how any of it works. You've got the magic YouTube Easy button, and it's really, really great. It's so easy to go live.
So, did I hear you right that you can associate yourself with somebody else's YouTube ID and broadcast basically on their behalf? Is that a correct statement?
Right. So what we found from some of our customers, well, let me back up a second. One of the really interesting things about Switcher Studio, when we first launched, we had a big emphasis on live video and making it easy to do live video, easier than it had been in the past. Now we have things like Periscope. It's a whole new level of easy, but there's still a lot of steps involved. And in that process, we have gotten a lot of feedback from people using Switcher, and we have just as many people using the product just to record and upload it later as we do broadcasting live. But the vast majority of the people that are doing live video are using YouTube. And the ones that are being really successful with YouTube streaming are often doing it for local government meetings or press conferences or athletic events. And so they're working with other organizations or groups that have their own branded channels or their own identity that they want to be able to send that video to. So someone that's using Switcher Studio might not necessarily be broadcasting to their personal YouTube account. So within the app, we've made it really easy to link and unlink that YouTube integration with other accounts. So people that are using this to create content from a production standpoint or doing video as a business are able to work with those organizations and broadcast directly to their channels.
So does that mean that, for example, if I'm going to broadcast for someone, they have to give me their YouTube sign-in and IDs and passwords, or is there a way around that surrendering?
There's some workarounds we're working on building out some better documentation on that workflow because it's such a new concept. But we have one customer, it's a group out of Canada. They've built an entire production company around Switcher Studio. It's called We Stream. And they broadcast a national women's hockey championship game using Switcher Studio, but they broadcast to a channel that was associated with that group. And so we're trying to make those types of processes easier. This particular organization has had weekends where they've done 10, 15 different streams within a couple days span. And so within Switcher Studio, you can select from previously scheduled events made on YouTube, or you can create those within the app. If you're not going for the YouTube Easy button, you can kind of break those out and schedule them in advance. So you have a title and a description that's specific to each individual broadcast. So I know that's getting really technical and probably beyond how most people will be using this functionality. But the idea is that if you want to dig in deeper, those tools are available.
I agree with you. It may get a little technical, especially when it's kind of difficult to demonstrate here. But just knowing that it does have those capabilities, and the fact that you're improving Switcher Studio, I mean, we didn't talk to you all that long ago, and it was pretty impressive. And now you've got this. How about a parallel system where I can broadcast to Switcher? Excuse me, I can broadcast to YouTube, but I also am I able to record as well for maybe some post-production and editing of a better version? Absolutely.
So that's the beauty of the director mode functionality. It allows you, with Switcher Studio, you can do any combination of recording only, broadcasting only, or both. You can even output video to an external display or monitor with an HDMI adapter or AirPlay via Apple TV. So you can pick any combination of those. Something that's new in this most recent release is you can broadcast without recording or saving to your device. So if you're using your phone and you're low on storage, you don't have to delete photos or apps just to be able to broadcast video. You could turn that off and use your server-side recording through whatever destination or platform you're broadcasting to. But using the director mode functionality in Switcher Studio, you could broadcast live video to any platform at any quality. So if you have great bandwidth, put out an HD stream. If not, we can run a speed test, automatically configure everything for you, and you'll put out live video that's maybe on par with what people are seeing on Periscope now. But it's a moving picture, and it's awesome. But using director mode, it also has a capture from all the connected devices that it composites for you. So you have a full quality video ready to upload after your event without doing any additional editing. If you want to take it a step further, you can push that into the Switcher Media Manager, and everything shows up in Final Cut. So all of your angles are time synced, every cut and transition is already there. So going into post-production, if you need to tighten things up or move things around, you're saving a lot of time and you're not starting from scratch.
Yeah, I think that's really exciting, because we all know, let's just take any of the late night TV shows. I mean, by the time we see them, they've been edited and tightened down and everything looks good. But there's still something about watching those live feeds that's rather compelling.
Absolutely.
So, having the ability to do both at once with this, really, that really ups the game a lot.
I wish I had been able to use something like this a couple of years ago when I was in the trenches. And it's just incredible how much time is involved after an event working with files. And with Switcher, it's so much more than just an app. You get access to cloud services, dedicated support, desktop applications, and it's a workflow solution. And it really, from start to finish, it's going to cut your time in half, and maybe more than that.
Right. Now, this Switcher Studio basically creates an iOS-based production studio or system.
Right.
What happens to my Mac?
You don't need it.
Yeah, that's what I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, other than Final Cut.
iPhones, iPads, iPod Touches. It uses the built-in camera on these devices. You pick one device that's your main switcher, and you'll log in with the credentials you create on our account. If you want to use another camera, you just download the app on another iPhone or iPad, and it's part of your production. You could pull somebody off the street, have them download the app. They don't even need to go to our website. Completely free, doesn't cost them anything, and they're part of your production. We do have screen sharing applications for Mac, so if you want to bring your computer in as a source or one of your cameras, it just mirrors the display. The person using the computer doesn't have to change anything about what they're doing. They would just use their computer as they always would, but that's available as a source in Switcher Studio. So now you can start to set up multi-view effects where maybe you have a picture-in-picture of a PowerPoint or a presentation and the camera on the person speaking. And you can start to bounce between those to have a really dynamic production. So without even getting into the multi-camera capability of Switcher Studio, you could use a single device with the built-in camera, add photos, graphics, prep overlays for lower thirds or corner bugs, and bring a computer screen in as a source and have a really awesome looking video.
I'm more than a little happy to welcome ProXPN as a new sponsor to MacVoices. Why? Because I just came back from CES in Las Vegas, and everywhere I turned, there were wide open networks just begging me to connect to them. Some were probably legitimate, many were probably not. How to be certain? The thing is, I don't need to be in Las Vegas to have this problem. I could be at the local coffee shop, or the mall, or anywhere else that you just want to sit, relax, and catch up on some email, pay a bill or two, or even just stream some music. As soon as you connect to that Wi-Fi network, you may be giving someone unintended access to everything on your Mac, iPhone, or iPad, or more. To keep yourself safe and secure, you need a VPN, or virtual private network, when you're away from home. We could go down a detailed path of what a VPN is, but suffice it to say that it provides you the safety and security you want when you're away from home, so that the prying eyes of the bad guys of all sorts can't see your passwords, what sites you're visiting, your chats, or anything else. That's why I'm happy to have ProXPN on board. First, ProXPN lets you try the service for free with no obligation, something the other VPN services don't do. Some services want you to secure your account with a credit card, hoping you'll forget you signed up. Not ProXPN. This is an honest-to-goodness free trial. When I said VPN, or Virtual Private Network, I bet some of you hesitated a bit. Sounds rather techy, doesn't it? Not to worry. The ProXPN team work hard to make everything, from sign-up to setup, as easy as possible. And even if you do have a problem, their support team is also the same team that tests out and sets up everything, so they know their product and VPNs inside and out. I've got a lot more to tell you about ProXPN, their commitment to privacy and security, their no-nonsense terms and conditions, their history of doing what they say they do. But for now, I encourage you to visit proxpn.com, use the code VOICES, and sign up for that free account. Take it for a spin when you go out for your next coffee shop visit, or even just at home, and get that safe, secure feeling of knowing no one is looking over your shoulder or at your data stream. That's proxpn.com and the code VOICES to make your surfing more secure. Thanks for the support and welcome to ProXPN.
There's also with the Mac screen sharing program called SwitcherCast, it will recognize the webcam or the FaceTime camera on your laptop within Switcher Studio as well. And the same goes for some USB cameras or capture cards. So we have some customers that are using that functionality to bring in a traditional camera via their computer. Okay. So it's not, it kind of moves away from the beauty of Switcher Studio and that you don't have to have all this hardware and this equipment, but there's some really interesting ways that people are using the product to still use traditional cameras.
And I'm really glad to hear that for a couple reasons, not the least of which is that a lot of us already have some of this gear, even if it's just a FaceTime camera on a laptop or two or an iMac. And now it sounds like you're letting us use that as well, so that hardware doesn't get left behind. In other words, we don't have to go out and buy iPod Touches or commandeer someone's iPhones. That right. We can take advantage of everything. And if I heard you right, so if I have an external camera, like a small home video camera that I have the ability to plug into my Mac, I can end up getting that into Switcher Studio and using that as well.
There's tutorials on the website. There's some workarounds to make that possible. It's not technically officially supported, but it's something people are having success with. If you can get the video to show up full screen on your computer, mirroring that display, it's going to show up. If SwitcherCast recognizes that capture card as a webcam, in some instances that is also available in Switcher Studio. So it might take a little trial and error, but it's something people are doing with success.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So that there's so many questions here I want to ask. So what gear do you recommend as the directory unit? I mean, do we need an iPad for that? Can we do it with an iPhone?
You can use an iPhone or an iPad. The user interface is a little bit different just because of the screen real estate. It's easier to access features on an iPad. So if you and it works all the way back to the iPad 2. Obviously, newer hardware is going to perform better as we keep pushing this product and adding new features. Having a iPad Air 2 or an iPad Pro is going to allow you to take advantage of new things as they become available. But we've also made this really lightweight and it's backwards compatible in a way that a lot of other video apps and software aren't. And that's something we've been really proud of.
Yeah, back to an iPad 2, that is impressive. If I go that far back, am I losing the ability to capture in higher quality, or is just higher quality, and it just puts more stress on the iPad?
Right. So there are some limitations. Just the hardware is going to cap out at some point. Maybe the camera isn't an 8 megapixel like it would be in a newer device. So there's a compatibility chart on the website where you can kind of see what works and what doesn't. But most of the core functionality is available on a lot of these devices. But if you're using an iPad mini or an iPad Air, they make great mixing devices. An iPad mini starts at $300, I think. So if you're starting from scratch, you could get an iPad mini, find some kind of clip to get it on a tripod, and maybe an adapter or a microphone for audio, and you're a couple $100s in, and you've got a pretty awesome video rig.
Yeah, And it's funny. I don't think all of us appreciate the fact that an iPad Mini, $300. Wow, $300. But what some of the things you're talking about would have been, things with commas in them and and extra zeros.
Right. And at the end of the day, it's still an iPad. You can still get on Facebook. You can still check your email. It's not a box in the corner that you pull out once a month.
Yeah,
so.
that's the really impressive thing. How much do you feel like you're taxing the iPad and iPhone and the whole iOS infrastructure? Is it something that you're really pushing the edge, or are you just tapping into the power that has always been there and nobody's succeeded in doing it so far?
We've tried to be really efficient. There are some limitations from Apple and what we can and can't do that have made things challenging. But it's lightweight. We talk about it working on older hardware. It's because we've taken a creative approach. In older versions of iOS, we haven't had direct access to the CPU. So we're having to do things differently than you would on a PC, where you're just abusing, the horsepower that's available.
Right.
One of the challenges with doing multi-camera video wirelessly is making sure that those sync up, and when you switch from camera angle 1 to camera angle 3, that those are going to sync, or that if you bring in audio, that it's going to match up among multiple sources, especially using this mobile hardware. And so that's something that you're going to get with Switcher Studio that you might not with other products.
That's the thing that I think that surprises me so much, and you just may have given us a clue. Maybe some of the solutions that are out there are kind of relying on faster CPUs and are abusing things. There's no encouragement to tighten it down and make it as efficient as possible. Because I'm sitting here working on a MacBook Pro right at this moment, and what you're telling me is that my iPad 2 can do really something more effectively and efficiently than this MacBook Pro can.
Right, and even moving beyond the hardware, we've put a big emphasis on cloud services. As part of your subscription or using Switcher Studio, there are things you can do from your online account that affect what happens in the software. You could, if you're streaming, you could have someone in a closet on the other side of the world set up your video player and input your streaming values, and the people doing the video production can do that. They can focus on the video production. They just make sure the right box is ticked and it's going to go where you tell it to go. We have an integrated speed test, so if you're doing live video, it'll automatically you can set Switcher to ping your connection, and it's going to adjust the resolution and bit rate and all of these scary things that used to be trial and error process and took a rocket scientist to figure out, and just automates it. It knows what quality to broadcast at, and that's something that we are expanding on and making more and more features available, where through your online account you can manage the software and certain assets within Switcher Studio. The YouTube functionality in essence is a cloud service that is managed through the online account, and it's something that someone could modify or edit by logging in on a computer and have a new YouTube event show up in Switcher Studio.
Let's be real clear on that so that everyone understands, including me. So I set up a Switcher Studio 3-camera shoot that I want to send to YouTube. Am I sending then that directly to YouTube, or am I sending it to your servers and then those are sending it to YouTube?
Right. So that video will go directly to YouTube. We're not intercepting it. We're not sniffing your data. If you're saving video to your device, it's your video. You own your content, and we're not an intermediary. But we're able to automate a lot of these processes that would typically require you to bounce back and forth between a computer to test a stream or validate it or preview it before you push it live. And so using our cloud services or syncing through YouTube with Switcher Studio, that's part of the magic. And we've taken the API level integration of YouTube and made that part of our cloud services.
Okay, so I'm buying sort of a control system from you with your account, but I am communicating directly to YouTube, and I'm not worried about you sniffing the data. It's just more a question of delays and fail points, and
right.
It sounds like you've eliminated pretty much as many of those as possible.
Yeah, if you have an internet connection, you can go straight to YouTube.
Okay, so how much does all this cost outside of the cost of the hardware and the iPads and everything, of course?
Right. So most cases, uh, someone probably has an iPhone or an iPad laying around. If you want to try it out, you can go to the website switcherstudio.com and you get full access to everything: the app, the cloud services, desktop programs for screen sharing, media manager, and support. 7 days at no cost. You don't even have to put in a credit card. Just go for it. If you decide to stick with it and you see yourself doing productions on a regular basis, it's $25 a month, or you can prepay for the year. So it's $299 for the year. And if you subscribe on the annual package, you get bumped up in the line for support. And we've had a lot of users in the past couple of months that have committed for annual accounts because they're using it so often.
It would make sense if you find that it suits your needs, and that's always a big question. I mean, there's no doubt this is really cool, and we all want to go play with it, but it does take a commitment to learn some of this stuff, and then to actually set up and do it. I mean, that's the other thing. So,
right. It's not an Angry Birds. It's not a consumer app. It's not Periscope where you're doing spontaneous video and you're pulling your camera out on a whim. You still have to make a decision to be somewhere and hit record. And those are the people that are using Switcher Studio. It's more event-driven, event-based, especially when you move into the multi-camera component, because you do have to think about, are we running this on a hotspot, or what Wi-Fi connectivity do we have? There's still a few steps there, but compared to the alternative of spending half a day running cables and bringing in a big box and buying 4 cameras that cost thousands of dollars, I've got a 4-camera setup in my laptop bag all the time.
Yeah, and I especially like the fact that you do record it. You give it back to me because YouTube is a great platform, no doubt about it. But there are other platforms out there, and some of us prefer to distribute on all those platforms. And sometimes they all kind of try to lock you into theirs and make it difficult to get your video back out, especially any quality video. So.
Yeah, and I think there's a different, and this is just my perspective, but I think there's a different expectation in live video and archive or on demand from a viewing experience. We're much more forgiving if something is real time because we're seeing it as it happens, and just the fact that there's a moving picture is absolutely incredible. But if you're watching at your leisure, we're used to what we see on television, and we're seeing more and more of that emulated online. And there's so much content out there. There's so much video getting posted to the web all the time, and it's only going to grow. And if you're going to stand out, it needs to be something worth watching. And that's something that Switcher allows you to do. Even just the one device, using the built-in camera, adding graphics, overlays, giving it a little bit of movement, you can have a really cool production without spending a couple $1,000s on a big rig.
I think your point is really well taken. I think that production values, they were out the window for a while because everybody was kind of doing the guerrilla thing. And now the guerrilla thing is expanding. But I don't know about you, I sometimes do get burned out on it a little bit. It's like, okay, I kind of like lower thirds and titling and things that make it doesn't have to be the evening news, but if it's just a little bit closer to something that looks like somebody took some time, I'm more likely to care about it.
And with Switcher, you get a couple different flavors of that. You can do edits on the fly, and that can be live or that can be available on your main device as soon as you're done. If you want to kick it up a notch using the director mode, it can composite all of that back to your device and you can post it from there. And if you want to dig in deeper and start to move things around, the post-production workflow and the Final Cut integration saves a lot of time going into post.
Definitely. So where do we send folks to learn more about this and maybe sign up at least for a trial or maybe sign up and change their lives?
Yeah, so it's switcherstudio.com. And there's a get started video if you need a refresher or you're showing a friend. It's a really good recap, a lot of the core functionality that's available right on the website. And then you can get started with the 7 days full access to everything on Switcher Studio.
Great. Nick, it's great to talk to you as always. Thanks so much, and congratulations on the upgrade.
Thanks. Take care.
All right, we'll be back in touch.
Bye.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. Go check out Switcher Studio if you have any interest in live video production. You probably have all the hardware you need laying around right now. Maybe you're watching me on something that could be used as your camera. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for links, show notes, to subscribe, to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the MacVoices blog. Subscribe to our weekly newsletter, the MacVoices Dispatch, to stay up to date on all the latest MacVoices news from our front page or at MacVoices.com/newsletter. Do more with your Apple tech by subscribing to the free MacVoices magazine on Flipboard by visiting MacVoices.com/magazine. Advertising and sponsorships handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.